Some of my favorite horror media comes from none other than the famous as hell artist Junji Ito. Known for a whole bunch of stuff from manga titles like Uzumaki and Gyo to his involvement in the cancelled Kojima project PT, Ito's influence has spread crazy far over the last few years. Or at least we're just seeing more media that wears that inspiration on its sleeves. World of Horror is one such piece. It's an Ito-inspired retro revival game that aims to pay homage to and capture the feelings of Ito's stories within the framework of an iMac-era 2-bit adventure game. And you know what? It does a pretty good job. The art style practically perfectly emulates Ito's, and even though the art's being limited by being lo-fi in general, it manages to be clear, detailed, and unsettling all at the same time. If you're familiar with Ito's stuff, you probably know that it hasn't had what most would call a remarkably unscathed history of adaptations. Most notably, a pretty recent marring of a chunk of his stories in the Junji Ito collection from back in 2018. There were some solid adaptations in there, sure, but overall the fan response was, we'll say, less than positive. When I think about it, I feel like I understand why these adaptations have kind of missed the mark, but it's gonna sound pretentious as hell when I get into it, so just bear with me for a second, alright? In Ito's work, from Tomi to Cat Diaries and Fragments of Horror, his line work and writing and massive expressive panels and just the absolutely tweaked and twisted facial expressions are so unique. In the quieter moments, there's always this sense of creeping dread caused by just the existential nature of everything. There's a sense that the concentrated, still, and cantankerous and climbing horror is right around the bend or in the very edges of the panel that you're looking at just behind a curtain. It's a hard thing to emulate, something this subtle, especially when so much of the power comes from the stillness of everything and your ability to linger on every panel and really just take it all in and let your anticipation build. A lot of that gets lost when the pace you get to take something in at is controlled by not you. To that point, World of Horror is a menu-based point-and-click game. That means you get to look at a lot of still or subtly animated frames filled with a couple colors at most and splashes of narrative writing that are very clearly pulling from Ito as a source. While it isn't like full-on spine-chillingly terrifying, it does a fantastic job of pulling in the kinds of creeping, crawling freakishness that Ito puts into everything he makes. You step into this game and you start going through written-out mysteries with random encounters and events, and you struggle to survive in a world filled with the same notes of graphic, existentialist horror based in Japanese mythos that Ito soaks into his stories. World of Horror isn't really without issues though. I mean, it's in early access, so that's kinda expected. The UI takes a fair bit of getting used to, and I mean, the beginning tutorial tells you as much, so we know it's intentional, but it is like a big ol' roadblock. There are a few bugs and some writing editing errors, but they're all small issues. The fact is that even with those, this is a fantastic emulation of the work that Ito does, not just in aesthetics, but in tone. It does set itself apart from Ito in one specific way though. In Ito's works, the characters don't tend to fight back as directly and violently as they do in World of Horror. In World, you're specifically investigating strange occurrences that others seem to be ignoring, and often you go bat to face against some sort of horror. The whole town is affected by some old god that's coming back to our reality, causing all sorts of wild, terrifying things to happen, and you're the only one who notices. And it's that direct combat, that one little note in there that makes it stand apart. The full frontal monsters that you face and investigate and fight, with fight being the key word, are what make it so different. Characters in Ito's works struggle and survive. Yeah, they investigate and they try to explain and learn, but by the time someone listens, it's usually way too late. It's kind of like if all of Ito's shorter stories were happening in one place, and a single person was aware of it and investigating, trying to either save the town or figure out what the hell's going on. It's a fundamental difference, but it's not a bad thing. It's just a little more actiony, and it's one more way that you can die in this game. You can lower the amount of combat encounters too, and honestly, I kind of prefer it that way. It makes World of Horror feel closer to the pacing and styles of Ito. More eerie encounters, less outright conflict and face-to-face fights with monsters in an alley, right? It's a great exploration of this particular kind of horror, and even though the interface is clunky and it has a few glitches, World of Horror is a fantastic game that uses aesthetics, music, and a slew of traditional horror mythos to not only emulate the works that formed its foundation, but to build on them to create a unique, enthralling experience. I think most notably, it shows us that Ito's work, and probably other works by extension, don't need to be confined to their original medium. It just takes the caring hands of people that are familiar with the work and things outside of just the content of the story, familiar with the themes and the reasoning behind the events in the story. It takes those kinds of people to create adaptations, and to create them well. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I'd like to give a big thank you to our patrons, so shouts out to David Snotter, Cruising In, Mark B. Writing, Puking Goombas, Steve Z, and Storm Hughes. Y'all's support means so damn much, and it's helped us grow and keep at it. If you'd like to learn about the benefits of being a Patreon supporter, head on over to patreon.com/indiebytesyt to learn about our goals and rewards. That's all for now. I will see you next time. Bye!